Okay, I think we're on now. So welcome to this week's training webinar. Every Monday, we have a webinar for agents where you can ask questions and we focus on specific topics. And this week, we're focusing on clients, how to recruit clients and clients being events, and how we work with event organizers as well. And one of the things I'm going to do through this presentation, as you probably recognize, is I'm going to revisit the first part of the training and just add a few more bits and pieces as we go through. So hopefully it's not repetitious, but it's a few other things that I'm going to focus on that maybe you haven't had yet from the videos that you've been through. Please ask questions as we go through. That's the idea of you being live. I really love you to ask questions. So if there's something on your mind that you want to ask, certainly we'll get started, but please pop it in the box and we'll leave a little bit of time to do that. So first item on the agenda is the coronavirus. And I think it would be rude of me not to approach the subject and talk a little bit about that, because clearly it's the topic on everyone's mind. It's creating a lot of uncertainty in the world. And it's not because of government restrictions or restrictions on countries that they've imposed, other than China and Italy, I think it is. And maybe South Korea. But it's the fear. It's the fear factor that's driving everything at the moment. Fear is damaging the stock market. We've seen stock markets drop and crash to their 2008 levels, where confidence is leaving the market because, you know, it's to be honest, it's a number of different things that have led up to this over time, but confidence now is the biggest thing. In parts of, and why that matters to us is that, yes, it's affecting the travel industry. Clearly, people don't want to travel, they don't want to fly, but more so, a lot of countries are starting to see that it's prudent to be able to be responsible by shutting down events anywhere where people gather in large numbers. Now, clearly, we deal in numbers. So we're dealing in groups, events, trade shows, exhibitions, and so on. And some of our events have large numbers. You know, we can do 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 attendees to a trade show, a convention, to a sports tournament or whatever. And some of these around the world, I don't believe so in the UK as yet, and parts of the US and places like that, but certainly in places like Singapore, clearly in the middle of Asia. Asia's a hot spot anyway, and Italy. And we've certainly seen that. And I think there's a few more countries, but once again, it's more that people are trying to stop the congregation of people because that's where the coronavirus is more likely to spread. So how do we focus on that? How do we remain resilient in our business, which is, I think, one of the most important questions that we need to ask. Look, firstly, let's not panic. You were never going to be able to do every event in your region anyway. Okay, so looking on the positive side, perhaps it's minimized your choices of events and it can help narrow your focus. One of the things you'll find with the different types of events that are around the world, groups, trade shows, exhibitions, meetings, and conferences, there is still hundreds of thousands of meetings and conferences going on. there are still exhibitions everywhere. There are groups, there are trade shows, there are sports tournaments, there are still festivals, and there are weddings and there are concerts. Maybe not so in specific regions where there's been an outbreak, but those regions that we tend to work in, more focused and that happen to have stronger borders are places like the US now, the UK, Australia. So these are parts of Europe, but where you've got open borders, it becomes a greater risk. I think the focus to take with this is to be mindful that it's happening without panicking. If anything, you're in a position now to really negotiate, really in a strong position to negotiate with the hotels. They're going to want business, and you can direct business, but I think you perhaps have to be a little bit more selective about the type of events that you go for. First of all, think about the events that people are just not going to cancel because of this. One of those events is weddings. Okay, they've been in the calendar a long time. You're talking 200 friends and family, and people don't believe, even though the world is made up of friends and family, people actually don't believe that their friends and family have got the coronavirus or going to get the coronavirus. So when they travel, they're going to have 200 people or 100 people attend their wedding, still 30 or 40 of those are going to be staying in a hotel nearby. It's been booked in advance. The thing about weddings, it's cost an absolute fortune. So the people having the wedding are going to consider that is essential. Now, a few companies have actually stopped travel, non-essential travel. Hi, Sylvia. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Sylvia is in South Africa as well. So we've got a couple there from South Africa, which is great. And just so you know, Jeff is in Nigeria. Vanessa, of course, is in Spain, although I think she's in Lisbon at the moment if I look at her map. And Doreen's in the UK. We're expecting... see, I know. I can trace you everywhere. Indra is supposed to be joining us from Bangkok. Divyang as well. Divyang's supposed to be joining us in London, so we'll see if they join us. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't know if you guys have any views, but or you've experienced anything by searching for events. But like I say, I think the major events, like we're dealing with in Japan, there is the Olympics coming up. It's going to be a hard one to stop. But what they may stop is the spectators. You know, it's a bit like some of the football tournaments in Italy and various places. There was a marathon, I think, somewhere in Asia as well, and the professional competitors were allowed to compete, and the other people at the marathon were not. So anything like that, I think it just changes the game a little bit. But look, as I said before, you can't possibly work with every single event that's out there anyway. So now things are narrowed down. And because we deal mainly in that middle to smaller event size, I think we're in a really resilient position because these things will still continue. If we were just focused mainly on large scale events, I think, in some territories, there would be a little bit of concern. that they might be cancelled. But generally speaking, I think, remember, our core market where we can really add value in this market tends to be the middle and smaller type events. And if you look for events that perhaps have been planned for some time, you know, that people are very committed, like a wedding, then I think you're going to be very safe and secure. And I think it's prudent to really do that. I don't think you should go into these things blind. I think you should understand what's going on in the world. You should watch the news. I don't think you should panic. And I think you should go about your business as normal. Just obviously be safe yourselves. And, you know, a bit like, you know, if you're going to fly, like I'm going to fly shortly, I'm not stopping flying. But if I'm going to fly, you know, you just make sure that you know, get alcohol wipes, wipe things down. You minimize the things that you touch, handles, doors, trays, all those things on flights, handling magazines, all these sorts of things. You know, and it's just a case of understanding and not listening to sensationalism as well. Like the ventilation systems on flights is actually very, very good. It was built for removing smoke from cabins back in the days when you could actually smoke, and they've just improved them even more. So they do pull a lot of these things in the air out, and they're quite compartmentalized, you know. So just because someone sneezes 50 rows behind you doesn't mean you're going to get a cold and it's going to travel through the air conditioning and come out. For a start, air conditioning units are compartmentalized to only 4 or 5 rows, and they concentrate on that section. But I heard a really interesting little tip to say that if you actually open the nozzle so you get the air, actually it blows away any of the nasty air that you don't want. So that was an interesting tip. But look, I think these things work around us. You just take good precautions. But like I say, going back to it, I think just be a little bit more selective maybe on the events, a little bit more researched. And the other thing, of course, look at your more domestic type events or national events. So, for example, in the UK, if I was going to look at events, I would be looking at events that are going to attract people from the north and south of the UK. Right now, I would not be looking for events that are going to be attracting people from Europe or where they need to fly internationally to actually get to that event. I would be really concentrating on the national stuff. You know, if you're in the US, I would be concentrating on an event that's happening in Chicago that is likely to bring in solar companies from Colorado, California, New York, and Miami. You know, these are kind of resilient economies that are self-sustaining. They don't need international tourists or travelers in order to attend and create a trade show. I think parts of Europe are very much like that. You've got a lot of population. There are still lots of events that will attract people in one country. Like if you're in, you know, Spain, for example, there will be events that will attract people from all over Spain coming in for that reason. So I think, once again, I think it's just, you know, really focusing on those sorts of things, those sorts of events, just to protect your space a little bit. But my experience so far with talking to potential agents coming in, they haven't shown concern at this point. They're still very interested. They've got to go about their business. If anything, from an agent point of view, they're more motivated in joining us because they can work from home. They don't have to travel. They don't have to take public transport. They don't have to be in an office. They don't have to, all these kind of aspects that you get with this business by working at home or a small co-working space or something like that. If anything, it puts more focus on the advantages we have as being independent agents as well. So just be a little bit smart about it. Just be a little bit aware. Keep an eye on the news. Try and understand what your market's starting to think and try and offer a solution. You know, we are in the solution business, and this is what I'm going to discuss in this webinar as well, is, you know, you've got to find solutions or people that need solutions. You've got to provide a solution. So first of all, to do that, you've got to think, okay, what are their needs? What do they want? What does the event organizer need? What's going to interest them to work with you? What problem do they have that you can fix? And this is the approach you can take now with the coronavirus going on and everything else. What angle? Business to me is all about angles. You know, it's what angle can I come from? What do I need to do in order to really pinpoint the need of that event organizer or guest? We're dealing with the guests as well. We're identifying a need. We're solving a problem. So what is that? And are we conveying that message really effectively? So, for example, a guest is looking for a hotel. Okay, so what's going to really interest them at the moment? Well, okay, so maybe being self-contained is an interesting one for them at the moment. Maybe because they have to travel, and maybe they have concerns over the coronavirus. Maybe they're being a little bit overprotective of themselves and they don't want to eat in crowded places. They don't want to be around other people, but they still have to travel. So they're going to take precautions and they're going to maybe wear a mask in certain locations, but they're still going to go. So when they do go, what do they want? Maybe they want an apartment more than a hotel. Maybe they want the ability that they could go to a supermarket and buy some food and just cook for themselves. So talking to your market sometimes is a really great way of finding out what their problem is and how you can provide a solution to that. So you're really identifying the pain points of the event organizer and you're providing them with a solution to help them. And you're identifying then the pain points and the needs of the guests, and you're providing a solution. And that sort of combination usually works very well. Hotels are not out of this either. So the hotels probably have seen a downturn in leisure guests, but perhaps not with business guests at the moment. Now, I can tell you, for being in the hotel booking industry for 20 years, maybe closer to 25 years, we've been through SARS, foot and mouth, bird flu, 9/11, 7/7, bombings in London, the crash of 2008. All these things have an effect on everything. And I'm sure there's been a few other things as well. But the travel industry and the accommodation sector is actually quite resilient. People don't stop traveling. They might stop non-essential travel, but they still have to do business. Companies still have to survive. They still have to meet people. Less people might be traveling, but people are still traveling. When the global financial crisis hit, it's not that they weren't traveling, it's that they were staying in cheaper hotels when they traveled. So the 5-star market was reduced and they ended up in 3-star hotels or 4-star hotels. Some of the hotels had to drop their rates, so they lost revenue. But people still turned up. Agents still earned commission. Okay, they didn't earn, $50 a night for a $500 a night hotel. They earned $30 for a $300 hotel. So, the market just doesn't stop. Let's say what tends to stop are the things we have a choice of, but we're not in the leisure market. Okay, we're very much in the MICE sector, which is a business market, a corporate market. Is a karate tournament a leisure tournament? I would probably argue it's an event, which makes it part of the MICE market. It makes it a commercial market, so it's not a leisure market. So with leisure, we're talking about going on holidays and doing those sorts of things. Although you'll always find there's amazing deals on. So some people will still travel because some people they're concerned, but they don't panic. Always these things produce opportunities. And that's what I wanted to really talk to you about today, is I think every cloud has a silver lining. And I know when I've worked in difficult markets before that if you're the person that shows up, if you're the one trying to bring bookings into that hotel, if you're the one calling that event and trying to help them put a strategy together so that their event can survive and it doesn't have to stop, if you can help them by saying to them that you're going to help find hotels that have a higher degree of sanitation, or apartments, or sometimes we have to get a bit creative and, like I say, come in from different angles. You build much stronger relationships in bad times, which will see you supported in good times. So if the hotels see that you're really out there and you're busy and you're really helping them, when things do come good again, they know you were there. They know you were trying to get them bookings and you're trying to help them to, get revenue. If these hotels don't fill up their rooms, they put staff off. They're not getting revenue. They have to shut down the number of rooms. They drop rates. They're a business as well. So some hotels in some leisure destinations, like where I am in Surfers Paradise in Australia, they're down. There are restaurants here, Chinese restaurants, Asian restaurants that are here that are top quality seafood for a Chinese market are 80% down on revenue. 80%, because they had one focus. Okay, and this is, I think, a really interesting lesson, is that they never once asked the locals to come into their restaurant. Never. They built it for a Chinese market. They priced it for a Chinese market. And now the Chinese market is not here. There are no flights out of China coming in here. They've all been stopped. So this restaurant is now 80% down in revenue and going on the radio, changing their market, changing their focus, going, come on, locals, come and support me, right? And I don't think anyone's going to support them because the restaurant was never set up for the local market. And this is where I think lots of lessons are going to be learned to, to diversify a little bit and be a bit flexible with the different types of markets that you are aiming for to provide some sort of resilience. Although, look, I've always preached find your niche. I think it is very good to focus on a particular niche, but I also think you need to be able to be flexible enough to adapt to other markets doing exactly the same thing, depending on economic conditions, environmental conditions, social conditions. And the world's a constantly changing thing. We might all of a sudden, you might have been operating in Egypt 10 years ago, and all of a sudden the uprising happened and the market changed and you couldn't work for a while. Well, you could still operate your business, but just that's not the market to focus on. You just focus on another market. I've got people in Syria that want to buy a franchise, but they know now is just not the right time to launch it. But once everything finishes, these economies do come back and are fairly resilient. So I think it's even more important now to connect with your organizers, to empathize with these organizers, even to empathize with the guests, and really, think about what your value is that you're adding when you go and talk to these people. The value at the moment is going to be in helping people feel secure about their travel, feeling good about their hotel. So what could you do? You could select more suitable hotels. You could really do a bit more research on that, and then you could convey that back to the event organizer and then be able to send that message out to the guests on social media and all the other ways that you've been able to access them as well. So I think that is a solution that you can apply now that's very, very relevant, but also perhaps this is good opportunity to be thinking about this even once things get better, and you might be in an economy at the moment, you might be in a country at the moment, which is okay. You've had a few cases of coronavirus, but it's not such a big deal. But the world knows about it. So, so what are the other needs, the event? What does the event what's their ultimate goal? What do they want to do? They want people to attend their event. So you have to sell the services that you have and have them understand that you can help them do that. By providing good hotel options, you're encouraging people to participate. You're encouraging people to come, that they feel safe and secure, and it's not a big deal, and they'll still run and they'll still do the things they need to. So hopefully I've kind of made that point. I think that's quite relevant. On this first video, so what you're looking at now is part of the video that we've been through with the clients. Number one, all about clients. So I'm bringing it up again because it's still so relevant, and I just want you to focus on certain aspects of it. So events needs, motivator solutions. If you're constantly thinking about that, what are some of the motivators and some of the solutions and some of the needs and some of the problems that you can help solve? And if you can't, then find the ones where you can, because you're going to have a quicker response, you're going to have a quicker contract, and you're not going to be having to really convince people about why they need to work with you. They'll just work with you because you've just identified a need. They can see it. It's not going to cost them anything. Maybe they can still make some money out of it in sponsorship or whatever the case, by you giving part of your commission back to them on, for a 3 or 4 year agreement, something like that. That's the incentive. So that's another need. That's another solution as you got here. So what are the different ones? Let's run through these quickly. Success. If people have a good hotel experience, they're motivated to attend the event again. How can that help the events? Well, events sell tickets, stands. People, they sell stands for $10,000 to $20,000, $30,000 to put a stand up at an event like a trade show. Annual, they might be repeat. and they want to build a successful event. Saving time and handling inquiries. Well, events do receive the inquiries, so obviously you can save them a lot of time, and you provide an expertise to make sure people get accommodated properly. I've got an event, just to give you a quick example. I've got an event that wanted to work with me and then decided they'd do it in-house themselves because they wanted to make the money. And every time this has happened, they come back. And I've received an email recently from them to come back. But, you know, I say, okay, well, look, this is what you're going to encounter. I'll leave my door open for you. I never burn any bridges. You know, if you have any issues, come back. And the reason they've ended up connecting to me again, because I kept an eye on their website and I could see that they have no hotel choices still. And it's been 4 months. They've got no booking system. They've got no link to the hotels. They've got nothing. So although these people think that they can do it, they don't do it because it's not a priority for them to do it. It's a priority and a need for people attending the event. They want to be able to get a better rate by being part of the event, and they deserve to. Otherwise, they just push back to the other booking agents like Booking.com and Expedia, and so they're not getting anything special for being one of 1,000 people that are attending this city. And that's because the event organizer just couldn't put it together, and that's because they don't have enough time. So sometimes making the events realize this really does help. Monetize and incentivize. So what are ways that we can monetize? We could say to the event organizer that will give them some of the commission. They can earn a new revenue stream and they don't have to do anything except promote it, email their database and do all those sorts of things. But if we're dealing with slightly smaller events, especially at the moment, then what incentive is there? Well, the incentive is maybe sponsorship. You know, these team events always want money from sponsors. So if you approach these events as a sponsor, so you contact them and you say, hey, I'd like to sponsor you. Who can I talk to? They're going to bite your hand off. And so you will then talk to them and say, okay, well, look, this is what we do. Normally we generate 50 bookings for an event. Could be 2 or 3 nights. That could be $2 or $3 or $4 or $5,000. Hi, Jonty. Jonty's just joined us as well from North Carolina in the USA. Welcome, Jonty. Nice to have you with us. Very briefly, we used to run webinars every Monday, and through January and February, we'd stopped it because we just reset the format of what we wanted to do. And now we've just begun again. So welcome. Jonty's our new agent, just in training, and already was well researched when he joined us, and already trying to bring in his first events at the moment. So we wish him well. Welcome to the team. What we've been discussing basically is all about events. We touched, Jonty, just very briefly, we touched on the coronavirus because it's an issue out there at the moment, and the potential of how this can affect events. I always like to, hit pretty much head on, and not try and avoid things. I don't think you can stick your head in the sand. I don't think that's a really good strategy for anything. I believe, being aware, being empathetic, and really working on markets that you can help. In other words, in a world where there are millions of different events, sometimes these catastrophes give us focus more than at any other time. Because sometimes you have too much choice. You can do whatever you want. You can aim for whatever you want. And when your market, so let's say in the US, or let's say in certainly in places like Italy, those big events are shut down. there's nothing with more than 1,000 people going ahead at the moment. So the canned concerts and football and the stadiums that are empty and just the teams playing. So basically, it's all about finding the need, more than anything. So it's about finding the motivator, solving a problem. What's the problem? Is the event uncertain about where people will stay and their traveling conditions, or so as we were saying before, and for not wanting to repeat what we've just been talking about, it could be things like finding apartments for people where they don't have to commune in kitchens and restaurants and crowds, and they can just still travel to the event because corporate still travels, maybe leisure stops, and they could go into an apartment or something like that, have their own cooking facilities. And so you just kind of provide solutions to these sorts of things. And quite often looking at the smaller markets, which is what we do, mid-range to smaller events is our bread and butter. They're generally going ahead globally. There's not any question that they're going to stop weddings, and no one's going to stop their wedding for this. And they still need 30, 40, 50. So that's the travel, which will still go ahead. The hotels will want that business and give you even better rates to get those clients in. So it's once again having focus. And what we're talking about really now is talking about really identifying these needs. So these motivators, solutions, and monetize and incentivize. You could go to a sports tournament and really start to, offer them sponsorship and actually get your foot in the door that way. Go in as a sponsor. Let them know that you'll give them a percentage of the commission, so that it's success related, so that the more people that attend, the more people that are excuse my dog. if you can hear the panting in the background, that's because my dog is hot and old. It's not me panting. So basically, or shaking, by the way. So basically, it gives you an opportunity to really go and put an incentive on for these people, get some sponsorship going, and even sign a multiple-year agreement with them. Coming in, as I said before, into these markets at slightly more difficult times or uncertain times can often make you more important to the event and more important to the hotels, and certainly more important and very valuable to the guest. It can win you loyalty with the guest. That's the other really important thing. If they see you're there, you've identified their concerns, you're a person. Just think about your own travel. Think about your family's traveling. Think about, I've got this volleyball competition and it's one state away, or it's at the other side of the country, and I want my kids to go and compete, but I don't want them at risk of anything, clearly. And if anyone's going to overthink and overprotect, it's going to be a parent. It's going to be one of these smaller competitions, but it's still going to go ahead. And these people don't want to not turn up, or they're in a team and the team has been rehearsing and doing this. So all of a sudden, you recognize your role in this and recognize the importance that you play in this, and find a solution. The bottom line on this slide, this is regarding, have you taken the time to research their events? So when you talk to an event organizer, it sounds like you're researched. It sounds like you're interested, and it sounds like you care. So it's even more true at the moment. If you don't recognize some of these issues or be open, and your head's stuck in the sand, and it means you're perhaps more driven by just making the sale or just making money than you are of actually helping provide a solution. And we are in the solutions business. So, if you can provide the solution, the money will come. So it kind of forces you to care. So care about these things. Have empathy when you call the event organizers and let them know you have a solution. Hi, I'm calling you because I have a solution to a potential problem that you have. That would be a great way to open a phone conversation. So, use these things, but the only reason you'll come up with these things is by actually caring and actually believing that you care, and actually wanting to make a difference with that event. And then what you want to do is make sure that you stay with these events for a long period of time. I think that's really important as well. Motivators about the guest needs. And once again, for those who joined us, this is the slide that you find in the first client's video. And I'm dissecting it a little bit for this because the information's already there. And sometimes on that 2-hour presentation that I put together on clients, maybe some of that gets a little bit lost. We've got a whole new angle of looking at this now because of the coronavirus, and because of other perhaps issues. And it's not just coronavirus as well. Look at what happened in Hong Kong. Now, Hong Kong is one of the biggest event destinations in the world. Hotels TV, now our head office, for those who aren't aware yet, and those who weren't receiving the emails, our head office is now in Hong Kong. Okay, but we're not in Hong Kong. There are no events in Hong Kong at the moment, but it's not because of the coronavirus. The events stopped because of the protests that actually were happening there. So Hong Kong had other issues before this even came along. So once again, when the market starts to readapt and come back into places like that, we are going to be the first ones there, because we know we're going to create a lot of loyalty with these hotels and these event organizers. And other people, when it gets tough, might just drop out and go away. And so that leaves, a market that, that we're quite resilient. So once again, if I had any agents, we don't have any agents in Hong Kong at the moment, I'd be telling them, and everyone is at home in Hong Kong. They work from home. I've spoken to lawyers and accountants more recently about setting up the company and doing everything over the last couple of months. They're all at home. Okay, they're still working, but they're at home. No one is in an office. No one is in a crowded place. No one is out and about. So think about that. The government in Hong Kong just gave people $1,250. Every resident in Hong Kong over 18 just got $1,250 because of the issues that they've actually had there. So as a business opportunity through these, every cloud has a silver lining. For them, they could be at home running a business. The gaming market, apparently shares in gaming companies have gone through the roof because everyone's sitting at home trying to work out things to do. If we were selling franchises out there or licenses out there, we'd be giving people an opportunity. They'd be trained. But what they would be doing is concentrating on other markets. They wouldn't even bother. So they could be in Hong Kong, but be doing events in Thailand, in Bangkok, for example, or maybe not Singapore because Singapore had some issues, or maybe across, other parts in Australia or other parts of the world. So there are millions of events. So the potential is for people to do that. Anyway, getting back. So guest needs. The other motivators with guest needs are price, location, value for money, staying with the pack. What I mean by that is if they're in groups and events, like a gymnastics tournament or a club, they want to stay with their group. Staying with their group quite often means more than us paying a slightly higher rate. They would rather pay the slightly higher rate than be in a separate hotel from the rest of the club. So that has its own emotional pull in order to get people involved. So, there's another opportunity for you. If there's a gymnastics tournament or a tournament where individuals are not necessarily attending, their clubs are attending. And if they do gymnastics or they do cheerleading or something like that, quite often they're putting, or dancing, they're in groups when they come in, and therefore they belong to a club. So sometimes your market will actually be the clubs, not the events as well. You still go through the events, but then what you do is you go to the next level down, which is all the teams, and you approach the teams one by one. And perhaps the organizers will actually give you access to that, but you can generally find the teams because there are associations. And wherever there are associations, you'll find there are websites. They're not secret associations. They're very public associations. So if you find out all the associations and then you find out all the clubs that are attending these particular or invited to attend these events, you could actually set up a booking system for each one of the teams. So you could have 20 booking systems that you can use for one event, or, however you want to organize it. Maybe you just want to put it all on the one PBA, but approach all the teams individually and let them know that the stock is there. So it's up to you how you want to work that, what you think is best for your audience. But that's a great emotional pull to get them booking through you, especially once you work with the club organizers as well as the events. And once again, trust is a big motivator. And what we talked about before, things like maybe promote that, you've seen the hotel, and they are taking precautions at the moment. Once again, you want to be careful to not introduce too many negatives, but you also don't want to ignore what's going on in the world. That's not going to help you either. That's why all the airlines have an update page. They have a page which talks about the coronavirus. So if you're flying from these countries, don't fly. They don't hide the information away because we're all trying to do our best to obviously contain and make sure it doesn't spread and do all those sorts of things. So, but once again, I'm not trying to cause panic. I don't think there's any need to panic. But I think being aware and allowing that to shape your conversation so that you're identifying the pain points and the needs of your clients and guests and hotels, I think is a really important strategy at this point. Okay, so hotel needs, just very quickly. The hotels want guests at the moment. They really want guests. They want quality guests that also spend money in the hotel. So that can be another way of addressing this at the moment, working with the hotel. And you might even ask the hotel and say, what precautions are you putting into place at the moment? So these people are attending, they're flying there. Why should they choose your hotel as opposed to another hotel? What are you doing? What information can you give me which is going to help sell you to the events and to the guests so that we can generate bookings? Because you're in this together. You want bookings, they want bookings. So what is it they're doing which is going to be quite special that you can use to attract audiences to them at the moment? Okay, coronavirus is a topic. Not coronavirus. What else is it? If that wasn't there, what would it be? If you're in Hong Kong, it would be, how do I convey the message that we're still open for business if we were a hotel? Because this is what they were trying to do. They were looking for people. They were looking for agents in Hong Kong that could get the message out that they're still open for business and the whole city's not shut down because of the protest. So whatever that is, so that might have been going to 4 or 5 hotels in a safer area and then finding out which companies are still traveling, which events are still going ahead, which because once again, the corporate market still must travel. It will not stop traveling. Okay. It has to travel. Bank accounts need to be open. Meetings have to happen. Signatures have to happen. All this stuff, a lot of this stuff is still very much face to face. This stuff doesn't grind things to a halt. It slows things down. So find the stuff that is still working and focus on that with your message of finding solutions to problems that exist. It's a little bit like contextualizing something. So, when you add a hotel onto the PBA, you can contextualize it, which means you can write your hotel description around the event. So now, once again, using coronavirus as an example, and I'm not trying to, go on too much about it, but you can apply this not only to coronavirus, but to any other pain point. Write it on the description of the hotel. So when people look at the PBA and they see your message, they click through and they read the description of the hotel, it's very relevant. It's relevant to what's going on in the world. It identifies problems and fixes them. Fine, identify a problem, make sure you've got a solution to that problem. And I am certain you'll be one of the only ones in your market actually doing that, focused on that. Because everything else is a cookie cutter, mass produced. We've got the benefit of being more personalized, of being able to pivot and move and change direction and provide interesting information localized about our area. One of the biggest advantages we have is that we have agents all over the world. You are specialists and experts in your region, in your area. So bring that to life in your writing, in your content, in your problem solving for these events and these guests and these hotels. Really, really use that. Don't be two-dimensional, if that makes any sense. And once again, that will result in long-term relationships. And trust me, what works, like I said before, SARS, foot and mouth, 9/11, bird flu, global crashes. We've been through it all. The other thing I will tell you is a great idea in more challenging times is to focus on the city. Look at main cities. Okay. If anything drops out, it's normally the provincial areas. Give you a case in point right now in Australia. The Gold Coast, which is where we are, is a holiday destination. It's down. It's probably 20% down on where it would normally be. It's not a particularly busy time right now in the market, but it's a leisure destination. It's beaches. It's, we're not here to do lots of hotels, TV style business. That's not the reason we're here. It's just that it's a nice place. But Sydney is booming. It's busy. It's corporate. It's business. It's events. It's weddings. It's population. It continues. You cannot shut that down. Melbourne, Bangkok, Hong Kong's a little bit different at the moment, and Asia's a little bit different. Madrid, London, New York, Miami, San Francisco. These are places around the world which still have people needing to go and needing hotels, needing event spaces, needing advice, needing personalization, and even more so needing a little bit more help at the moment. This is where you come in, and this is where you can be better than other websites out there that won't even pick up the phone. You can be providing that content directly to people attending an event. So hopefully I've pushed that point home a lot today. I really think it works. I know it works when you care And when people can see that you care and you've gone to the effort to get the information, that's going to make people's life easier. Once again, don't go ahead and do this without getting contracts. Contracts are very much needed in place, which allows you to do the work that you need to do. Don't do all this work without having a contract with the event organizer. I don't believe in ever doing that. If your event organizer is not prepared to sign an agreement that gives you the exclusivity, then don't work with them. Find another event. We're not in an industry where we just have to bow down to everyone. It's not that. We're providing a really valuable service. We're getting them amazing hotels and better rates than they'll get anywhere else, which for the event organizer really makes them look good. So it adds value. It brings people back again. There's lots of different advantages, as we've been through time and time again with different webinars and the training information and everything else. You deserve to have an exclusive agreement with the event for the work that you do. And especially because you're results driven, you need the contract to be able to negotiate the better rates. If you've got an exclusive contract, you can push hotels to give you better rates. If you don't have an exclusivity, you've got no leverage. And this business is all about having leverage. So just make sure that you always get that event. But you can have a really good conversation with the event organizer, and you can explain this to them. You should be explaining why we're so good. The fact that we do negotiate rates with selected hotels, the fact that we do use our leverage for them, and that's why we want an exclusive agreement. That, yes, that's the only way we get paid, but if we're not successful in getting the good hotel rates, we're not going to do bookings anyway, because when there's going to be no advantage to people by booking through it. So it's really important you sit down with these event organizers or talk to them at length, get their attention, really make them understand what you're doing for them and the advantages for them, and have them buy into that so that they work with you. They make sure the emails go out. They make sure you're on their social media. They're buying into the event. Whether they get money or not out of it is up to you and them, because a lot of events, particularly corporate events, are not allowed to take money as a commission fee. So therefore, all the commission's yours. There's no issue with that, but they still need help and they still will cooperate with you. So that's, I guess, the end of what I wanted to talk about today. We've just about hit our time. We've been going an hour. I have recorded it, so I will put it on our YouTube channel. Every agent should be connected to the Hotels TV Training YouTube channel. The link is in your introductory letter, and it's where you've been finding the 8 stages of becoming an agent. Make sure you subscribe to that channel, because every time we upload a new video, automatically you should be notified. So I'll get this up later today or tomorrow, so that you can review it. But hopefully that's been helpful. I'll open the chat box up. If anyone would like to add any questions or ask any questions just while we finish off, please let me know. A question about the web page for the agents contact updated so people can find us if they click on this. Sorry, I don't understand. Is all your details should be on the contact page, and all the events. So as an agent, you should have your image up there. You should have a short bio on yourself. You should have any social profiles that you have, and Vanessa will talk to you more about getting set up with Facebook and Twitter and these sorts of things. And your contact details should be up there so that people can connect to you. And when they're on your PBA, they can connect back with you that way. And remember, we've got two types of PBAs these days for those that have been with us a bit longer than the newcomers. You can set your PBA as a corporate extranet, which makes it a very one-page type thing, or you can set it up as a destination where, you've got your main page and there's a link to more hotels, and then it links to a PBA type page with a whole list of hotels. But what that allows you to do is take 2 or 3 or 4 hotels and feature them on the destination page. So it has a nice welcoming home page or first page with a few featured hotels, and click a link to the whole list of hotels. Whereas the corporate extranet style PBA just have a whole list of hotels on one page. Hopefully that makes sense. But they both should link through to your profile as well. Your profile, is something that's there to make you look professional, provide your contact details. So it's quite important. So here's a question from Tessa. Finding that event organizers have travel as a revenue stream and are reluctant to use agents. I guess it's about convincing them about the value of an agent. Yeah, look, that's very true. Well, okay. There's 2 types of event organizers. Okay, there's an event organizer being someone that's been put in charge of putting an event together, and there are PCOs. PCOs are professional convention organizers, for example. So the professional ones generally will try and maximize their revenue opportunity. Quite often you can work with them by sharing commission with them. Once again, it's finding the needs. So do they need a booking system? If you're working with a professional conference organizer, that's great. They might want all the commission for themselves. That's great. But do they have a booking system? So that might be your way into that, of which you can come to an arrangement on the commission share, but talk to them. Say, look, I've got the booking system. I've got selection of hotels I can negotiate. I can take all this off your hands and still give you a commission and still share a commission with you. Or you can just do it yourself manually. And that takes you away from selling another stand for $20,000, or takes you away from doing something else, marketing the event to bring more people in, to do something that's more worthwhile than them fussing over a particular thing. Now, the other event organizer, and once again, our sweet spot is mid to small events, not the high events. If you go to a professional conference organizer, they're generally the ones that are trying to organize 5,000, 10,000 plus people into a particular event or something massive. But the smaller events generally don't go through a professional conference organizer. They do it themselves. And they're the people that need the help. And they're the ones that you should be kind of connecting through to. So you can normally find that out when you go onto the events website by clicking around, and you'll start to recognize it more and more. Look at the event organizer, and normally they have an email address. So look at the email address of the event organizer. And if it's the home show, South Africa, then basically their email address should be kathy@thehomeshowsouthafrica.com.co.za. If they're a professional conference organizer, it'll probably have something like Kathy@Oliver Kinross. And then what you do is you go onto Google and you put in Oliver Kinross, and you find that they do 80 events around the world. But even some of these professional event organizers don't always offer the accommodation because they know it's a bit more difficult. They know they don't have a booking system and they have to do it manually. So they end up outsourcing. So what I would do is still talk to them about that and find out if there was a way that you could work together, how would it be? Number one. Number two, I would be looking for a way to really focus on the events that are put together by people that need your help more than anything. So hopefully that helps. And if you're dealing with sports tournaments and things like that, that's great. That's easy enough. The organizers are generally not professional organizers. If you're dealing with weddings, you would go via things like wedding venues. Contact the wedding venues, like golf clubs or function centers or places that don't have accommodation generally, because you can share them in on some of the commission and they'll just introduce you to all the couples getting married. So if you get 10 or 20 of those and they're introducing you to one wedding a month, you get 10 or 20 weddings out of those. Sports tournaments, you could also go directly to the sports venue. So there's normally a sports venue manager, someone who manages the center, but at the center they might have squash tournaments, they might have football tournaments, they might have tennis tournaments or whatever it is. If you get friendly with the manager of the center, quite often you can actually get to the event organizers quite quickly. And the event organizers quite often are not PCOs focused on that market. So you want to work in a market where you can add value. If you find the people you're talking to you're not adding value to, then you need to change the market that you're looking at, because you're not looking at the right market that we can help. Okay, who is responsible for updating the agent's details on the web page? Is it the booking agent or the head office? It is you, being the agent. You have an area within your and if I can maybe I can take you on and show you it. Let me just see if I can take you on there, just so you're aware. So this is from Sylvia. Okay, so I'll use mine as an example. And let me see if I can bring you in to see this. Okay, so hopefully you can see what I'm seeing. I can actually put the preview on. Okay, so if you have a look at this, and I'll move that out of the way, in your area as an agent, you will see my account details at the top once you log in. So if you logged in to your home screen, this dog, I tell you. Okay, of course the internet's gone slow. That really is my dog. I just want you to know that, if you can hear that in the background. Bobby, would you like to pull up a chair? You seem to want to be in the presentation. For some reason, the internet's decided to go slow, so we'll come back to that in a second. Okay. Always the way, eh? Can't be reached. Hopefully you're still getting us and we haven't lost the internet connection as well. We'll see if that comes up. But anyway, look, if you saw that, that's actually where it comes up under that screen at the top when you go into admin. I can't remember what it says now. No, I think I've lost it while I've gone to screen sharing. It's all packed in. So look, I'll come back to you. End sharing and go back to. I'll just stay on that. That's fine. Okay, just for question time. So yes, sorry, I couldn't really take you in anymore and show that, but hopefully you got a snippet of that. If it comes back, I'll tell you once again where that is. But it should be in your profile area at the top. And what you do is you add a bio. It's just not connecting at all. You add a bio and you add your photo. So put a nice image up there. Put your contact numbers, and you can put any social profiles. Don't link to your personal social profiles. If you need to add Facebook, or you want to add Facebook, or you want to add Twitter, then make sure you set up a new Hotels TV agent one. So, have a very professional one. You don't want to send people to pages. You don't want people looking at your family and your updates and all this and you just want a professional social media persona and keep your family completely separate. Sometimes you get clients that see you and they'll see your family one and they'll want to connect to that, but just go and connect to them using your professional one. And then you can it's very important that you separate that. Sorry, thanks, Vanessa. I should have looked at the comments. In admin under my account. That's it, my account, not my profile. Okay, so any other questions at this stage? I think we've gone over by a bit of time. Look, I really appreciate you all joining us. I think it's great. It's, like I said, it's important that you can make the effort to attend these, because just those questions are very valuable. And we're going to have more sessions where we'll also open the mic up. We'll probably do that on Zoom so that we can share experiences. I would really like you all to talk about an experience that you're having, which helps everyone else. Use some positive ones, you can use some negative ones, but where successes and failures, they're all very important, because everyone learns from this. Maybe there's an angle we went down that we were focused on the wrong thing and we changed it and we started focusing on the right thing and we had success. So they're the sorts of things that really help everyone. Anyway, excuse my old dog. Doreen's written that your dog needs a walk. My dog's had a walk tonight, and I think that's the problem. I think his panting it's quite warm. I mean, it's probably 26 degrees, 28 degrees Celsius. And I've got the air conditioning on. So it is actually quite warm. But the air conditioning is on. But yeah, maybe he can feel it. So yeah, it's summer's over as well. It's the first or second day of autumn too. But it's still hot. So there you go. But maybe I'll take him out for another quick walk, Doreen. You could be right. He's an old man now, though. He's 12 and a half. That's What's 12 and a half? It's like 85 years old. So I guess he's, what do you do at 85? It's probably a bit of that. All right. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be having an update. Before you go, one of the things I did want to share with you, and we'll do other webinars, Vanessa, if you can remind me, and we'll do that. Agile CRM. Okay, you should be using a CRM. Basically, to collect all your event organizers in one place and all your hotel contacts in one place. And the reason is you want to send your event organizers updates of what Hotels TV is doing and successes you're having, because that motivates your event organizers to come and use you because they can see that. So, and if you don't have many successes right now, use the other successes on the agents area, or talk to Vanessa or I, and we'll give you these details and successes that you can post. But put them into a CRM because it will automate your marketing. We will show you how to use that. We have videos in the series that show you how to use that. Now, the good thing is that we have a solution that costs $15 per month as a CRM, and it will give you everything that you have to do. We were a little bit worried before because the main one costs about $80 a month, and that's good for me and Hotels TV and Vanessa because it allows us to do lots of marketing and have lots of contacts in different ways. You don't need that because you're not going to be developing over 10,000. If you end up with over 10,000 event contacts, my God, it will be worth you progressing to the next level and paying more money, because that's phenomenal. So for the 500 event organizers that you'll have, or 1,000 that key contacts you have max, put them into the CRM. Even if you don't do any business with them, start generating email campaigns, informing them of what's happening. And I promise you a proportion of these will come back and want to work with you, because over time they're going to see what you do. So the ones that don't or can't use you right now, they're not dead, put them into the CRM. We'll do some more training. Talk to Vanessa about joining Agile. You can go on there for free. Go to agilecrm.com. You can just sign up for free and have a go and stick a few clients in and so on. We're going to make a group one, and that means that we will add you. We would need to bill you if we do that. I'll have to see how that works. But the advantage of you being on our agent's platform is the fact that we can help you put your email campaigns together, and we can share logos and artwork and those sorts of things as well. So have a look at agilecrm.com. I'll be talking to Vanessa, and we're going to put a program together that we can send out to you. And then it's just going to cost you the $15, I guess, a month, approximately, which isn't a big spend for a CRM. Hopefully that's good news for you. I just wanted to bring that up, really, more than anything. Thanks, Doreen. Thanks, Sylvia. Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks, Jonty, Jeff, Tessa. It's been great to chat with you. Don't get too wound up by the coronavirus. Just, look at what you can do to benefit from it, if that's not a weird thing to say, but how you can help people, how you can structure yourself around it, and really, keep the wheels turning, keep the events coming, and really help people in the right way that's relevant. Once again, I think it's relevance. So, all right, have a great week. Connect with Vanessa to schedule those training sessions. Keep connected, keep involved. Every Monday we're going to have this. If you have any issues with time, let Vanessa know once again. Doreen's just saying hotel chain in Madrid offering a voucher if any bookings are cancelled. Okay. The other thing we're introducing, you'll find out soon, is we're bringing in an insurance option too. So you'll be able to, and that will also be for advanced purchase rates. So when people buy a rate that's non-cancelable and non-refundable, they will be able to insure it. So even if they did need to cancel it, they get their money back. So that's something we're bringing in, different types of insurance. We will also be able to offer you insurance as an independent agent for things like public liability and contents insurance. So we'll get some good rates on that, and that makes sure everyone's covered in the right ways that they need to be, if that is of interest, but certainly on the booking side of things. And we may even be able to offer some of the event organizers some insurances as well. So there's some interesting things developing on that. Just before I go, very quickly, once again, we are head office Hong Kong now. So Hong Kong is set up. We've got an office now in Madrid with Vanessa. Shortly, we're going to have an office in London as well. We have an office with Jeff and Tosin in Nigeria, and I will be in California shortly, where we're going to open a USA office in the next few weeks. And that's for North America. I even have a salesperson pretty much ready in Canada. So lots of interesting news, and we'll circulate that and keep you updated by email. Okay, I'm going for sure now. So thank you very much for joining us, and look forward to seeing you next week for another exciting episode of Hotels TV webinar. Bye for now.